There are forces shaping your life right now that you don't even recognize, and that's exactly why they're so powerful. You think your decisions are logical, your hesitation is reasonable, your caution is justified, but something deeper is quietly influencing everything you do. It doesn't feel like control. It feels like you. It sounds like your own thoughts, your own voice, your own reasoning. And because of that, you never question it. You assume every hesitation is valid, every delay is necessary, every doubt is telling you the truth. But look closer. There are patterns in your life that keep repeating, opportunities you hesitate on, decisions you postpone, risks you avoid even when something inside you knows you should move. And every time there's a reason that makes it feel justified. You tell yourself you're being careful. You say you're waiting for the right moment. You convince yourself you need more clarity, more time, more certainty. And while that sounds responsible, it's also how progress quietly gets delayed again and again, because not all fear feels like fear. The most dangerous forms don't come with panic or urgency. They come with calm, logical explanations. They disguise themselves as intelligence, as planning, as realism. And that's why they're so hard to detect. Over time, these hidden forces begin shaping your identity. You start to believe you're just someone who waits, someone who hesitates, someone who plays it safe. And that belief becomes the lens through which you see every opportunity that comes your way. Most people never break out of this because they never realize what's happening. They think they lack discipline, or confidence, or motivation. But the real issue is deeper. It's that something beneath their awareness is guiding their decisions. And here's the truth that changes everything. These forces follow patterns. They're not random. They show up in specific ways at specific moments, influencing specific types of decisions. And once you start noticing them, you begin to see how often they've been there. Think about the last time you held yourself back, the last time you felt that hesitation, the last time you talked yourself out of something you wanted to do. That moment didn't come out of nowhere. It was part of a pattern that's been repeating. But instead of recognizing it, most people accept it. They treat it as part of who they are. And because of that, they spend years trying to move forward while something inside them is quietly pulling them back. That's why effort alone doesn't fix it. You can push harder, try to be more disciplined, set bigger goals. But if these hidden forces are still in control, they will continue shaping your actions without you even realizing it. The real shift happens when you stop focusing only on what you're trying to achieve and start looking at what's been controlling you. Because once you identify it, it stops feeling like truth and starts looking like a pattern you can break. There are 6 of these patterns, 6 forms of fear that influence how you think, how you act, and how far you're willing to go. Each one operates differently. Each one shows up in different situations. But together, they quietly shape most people's lives. And until you see them clearly, they will continue working beneath the surface, guiding your decisions in ways that feel normal but keep you limited. That's why so many people stay stuck without understanding why. But once you recognize them, something changes. You begin to catch them in real time. You start to question thoughts you once accepted without hesitation. You begin to separate what's real from what's been holding you back. And that awareness alone begins to break their grip, because fear cannot control what it cannot hide. And the moment you see it clearly, it loses the power it once had over your decisions. So if you've ever felt like something invisible is limiting you, like you're capable of more, but keep holding back, there's a reason for that. Not a flaw, not a weakness, but a pattern that can be understood and removed. And once you understand it, you'll realize that the biggest obstacle you've been facing was never outside of you. It was something quieter, something hidden, something that only loses its power the moment you finally see it for what it is. There are forces that influence a man's life without ever announcing themselves. They do not arrive with alarm, nor do they declare their presence with urgency. Instead, they move quietly, shaping thought in such a way that the man believes he is acting of his own clear judgment. He feels composed, he feels reasonable, he feels in control. Yet beneath this sense of control, There exists a subtle influence guiding his decisions. This is the nature of concealed fear. It does not present itself as something to be resisted. It presents itself as something to be trusted. The man does not feel that. He is being held back. He feels that he is thinking carefully. He does not believe he is avoiding action. He believes he is preparing. And in this belief, he accepts delay without question. This is why it is so powerful, for anything that appears as one's own reasoning is rarely examined. The man listens to his thoughts and assumes they are his allies. He does not question their origin. He does not consider that they may be influenced by something beneath awareness. Thus, the influence remains hidden. And what remains hidden cannot be resisted. Consider the moment when opportunity presents itself. The man feels a desire to act, a sense that he should move forward, yet almost immediately another thought appears. It speaks calmly. It offers explanation. It suggests that more time is needed, more clarity, more preparation. The man listens. And because the voice is steady, because it does not feel like fear, he accepts it. He steps back, not in panic, but in reason. This is how progress is delayed, not through force, but through persuasion. The most dangerous forms of fear do not create urgency. They create comfort. They allow the man to feel intelligent while he remains still. He does not feel weak. He feels responsible. He does not feel afraid. He feels cautious. And in this transformation, fear becomes invisible. Most men live within this condition without ever recognizing it. They move through life making decisions that appear justified, yet produce the same result repeatedly. Opportunities are postponed. Risks are avoided. Action is delayed. And each time, there is a reason that makes it seem appropriate. The man tells himself that he is waiting for the right moment, that he is being careful, that he is avoiding unnecessary loss. And while each explanation appears sound, the pattern remains unchanged. He does not move. He does not advance. He does not expand. Yet he does not see this as failure. He sees it as discipline. This is the deception. For the mind, when influenced by hidden fear, does not present falsehood as falsehood. It presents it as truth. The man believes he is making correct decisions. He trusts his hesitation. He defends his delay. And in doing so, he strengthens the very force that limits him. Others may observe this without fully understanding it. They will see that the man is thoughtful, yet not advancing, that he is intelligent, yet not progressing, that he speaks of plans, yet rarely acts upon them. They may describe him as careful, as deliberate, as someone who does not rush. Yet beneath these descriptions lies a quieter truth. He is governed, not by lack of ability, but by unseen influence. This influence becomes more powerful through repetition. Each time the man accepts delay as reasonable, he reinforces the pattern. Each time he justifies hesitation, he strengthens the belief that hesitation is correct. Over time, this becomes identity. He no longer sees himself as someone who is holding back. He sees himself as someone who thinks things through, as someone who waits for the right time, as someone who does not act without certainty. And because this identity feels intelligent, he does not question it. This is how limitation becomes permanent, not through force, but through acceptance. It must be understood that the mind is capable of producing reasons for nearly any action or inaction. It can justify movement, and it can justify stillness. It can support courage, and it can support retreat. The difference lies not in the reasoning itself, but in what is influencing it. When fear operates unseen, reasoning becomes its instrument. It shapes the explanation. It determines the conclusion. It guides the decision. And because the reasoning appears sound, the man follows it without resistance. Thus, the first step toward freedom from this influence is recognition. The man must begin to question not only what he thinks, but why he thinks it. He must observe his patterns. He must notice where delay repeats, where hesitation appears, where opportunity is consistently postponed. He must ask himself, is this truly reason, or is it something else, speaking through reason? This question alone begins to weaken the influence, for what is examined cannot remain hidden, and what is no longer hidden begins to lose its power. The man will start to notice that many of his thoughts follow familiar patterns, that hesitation arises in similar moments, that the same explanations return even in different situations. And in this observation, he begins to see structure where he once saw randomness. This is the beginning of awareness. He no longer accepts every thought as truth. He examines, he observes, he separates himself from automatic response. This separation is critical, for it allows him to choose. Before, he reacted. Now, he considers. And in that consideration, he gains control. It must also be recognized that this process does not eliminate fear at once. It reveals it. And in revealing it, it reduces its influence. The man may still feel hesitation. He may still hear the same reasoning. But now, he sees it. He recognizes it. And because he recognizes it, he is no longer governed by it in the same way. This produces change, gradual at first, then more defined. He begins to act where he once delayed. He begins to question where he once accepted. He begins to move where he once remained still. Others will notice this transformation. They will see that he becomes more decisive, that he does not hesitate as before, that he moves with greater certainty. They may believe he has gained confidence. Yet what he has gained is awareness, and awareness produces control. Thus, the silent influence begins to weaken, not because it has disappeared, but because it can no longer operate unseen. The man has brought it into light, and in that light, it loses its disguise. It no longer appears as pure reason. It is seen as something else, something that once guided him without question, but now must be examined. This is the beginning of mastery, not over the world, but over the unseen forces within. And let him affirm with steady clarity, I question the thoughts that delay me. I see beyond what appears reasonable, and I act in accordance with truth, not hidden influence. There is a form of fear that rarely announces itself as fear, yet it governs the actions of countless men throughout their lives. It does not speak in alarm. It does not create panic. Instead, it appears as calculation, as planning, as careful consideration of circumstances. It persuades the man that he must wait just a little longer until conditions are more favorable. This is the fear of insufficient means. The man under its influence does not believe he is afraid. He believes he is being wise. He tells himself that he must first secure more resources, more money, more knowledge, more connections, more certainty. And until these are obtained, he convinces himself that action would be premature. This reasoning appears sound. It carries the tone of responsibility. It suggests discipline. Yet beneath it lies delay. And delay, repeated often enough, becomes permanent inaction. Consider how this fear operates. Opportunity presents itself. The man feels the impulse to act. He sees the possibility. He senses that movement is required. Yet almost immediately, a second thought appears. It does not oppose the opportunity directly. It questions readiness. Perhaps not yet. Perhaps more preparation is needed. Perhaps it would be wiser to wait. The man listens. And because the thought is calm, because it appears rational, he accepts it. He steps back, not in fear, but in what he believes to be prudence. This is the deception. For the man is not waiting for readiness. He is waiting for certainty. And certainty, in most worthwhile pursuits, does not arrive before action. It is created through action. Those who have achieved greatly have seldom begun with sufficient means. Andrew Carnegie did not wait until he possessed wealth before entering the field of industry. Henry Ford did not delay his efforts until conditions were secure. They moved with what they had, and through movement, they acquired what they lacked. This is the law the fearful mind resists. That means follow movement. They do not precede it. Yet the man influenced by this ghost reverses the order. He believes that he must first possess and then act. And in holding to this belief, he remains in preparation indefinitely. Others will observe this condition without always recognizing its cause. They will see a man who is always planning, always considering, always preparing, yet rarely executing. They will say he is careful, that he does not rush, that he avoids unnecessary risk. Yet over time, another truth becomes visible. He does not advance. His plans do not materialize. His opportunities pass. And still, he prepares. This is the pattern of insufficient means. It keeps the man occupied without producing result. It gives him the feeling of progress without the substance of it. He believes he is moving forward, yet he remains in place. It must be understood that no man ever begins with complete readiness. If he waits for perfect conditions, he will never begin. For conditions change, circumstances shift, and certainty remains just beyond reach. The man who succeeds understands this. He acts before he feels fully prepared. He moves before all questions are answered. He begins with what he has, and through beginning, he gains what he needs. The man who is governed by fear does the opposite. He delays, he gathers, he waits, and in waiting, he loses the very opportunities that would have provided the means he seeks. This fear also strengthens itself through reasoning. The longer the man delays, the more justification he creates. He tells himself that he is being responsible, that he is avoiding unnecessary risk, that he is ensuring success before beginning. Yet this is not assurance, it is avoidance, disguised as preparation. There is a critical distinction between preparation and postponement. Preparation leads to action. Postponement delays it. The man must learn to recognize this difference. 4. Both feel similar. Both involve thought. Both involve planning. Yet only one produces movement. The other produces stagnation. This ghost is particularly dangerous because it appears virtuous. It rewards the man with a sense of control. He feels that he is managing his situation wisely, that he is not acting recklessly. And because of this, he does not question the delay. He accepts it, he defends it, he continues it, until time passes. And with time, opportunity fades. It must also be recognized that this fear alters identity. The man begins to see himself as someone who must always be ready, someone who cannot move until conditions are certain, someone who waits for the proper moment. And because he believes this, he acts accordingly. He becomes the very condition that holds him back. Others will begin to notice this over time. They will see that he has ideas, yet no results, plans, yet no execution, ambition, yet no advancement. They may begin to lose confidence in him, not because he lacks ability, but because he lacks movement. For men trust those who act, not those who endlessly prepare. Thus, the solution lies not in eliminating preparation, but in redefining it. Preparation must lead to action. It must support movement. It must not replace it. The man must reach a point where he says, I have enough to begin, not enough to guarantee success, but enough to move forward, and in that movement, he will find what he lacks. This is the turning point. When he chooses action over endless readiness, when he begins before certainty, when he moves despite incomplete means, this act breaks the pattern. It weakens the ghost. For fear of insufficient means cannot survive in the presence of action. It requires delay. It depends upon hesitation. Once the man moves, its influence begins to diminish. He discovers something important, that he is capable of more than he believed, that resources appear as he advances, that opportunities reveal themselves through engagement. This discovery builds confidence, not from thought, but from experience. And experience replaces fear with knowledge. Thus, the man frees himself, not by waiting, but by beginning. Let him then examine his own delays. Let him see where he has been waiting for conditions that may never arrive. Let him recognize where preparation has become postponement, and let him act with what he has where he is. For in that action he will gain what he seeks, and let him affirm with firm conviction, I do not wait for perfect conditions. I act with what I have, and through action I create the means I require. There exists a form of fear that seldom reveals itself openly, yet it governs more decisions than most men are willing to admit. It does not appear as terror, nor does it force retreat through panic. Instead, it operates through imagination, through the anticipation of what others may think, say, or believe. This is the fear of criticism. The man influenced by this fear does not believe he is afraid. He believes he is being measured, careful, appropriate. He tells himself that he is considering how his actions may be received, that he is maintaining dignity, that he is avoiding unnecessary embarrassment. And in this reasoning, he finds justification for hesitation. Yet beneath this reasoning lies restraint. The man does not act fully. He holds back, not because he lacks desire, but because he imagines response. This is how the fear operates. Before action is taken, it introduces an audience. It suggests that others are watching, that they are judging, that they will evaluate his decision. And though this audience may not exist in reality, it exists clearly within the man's mind. He begins to measure himself against their imagined opinion. He adjusts his behavior accordingly. He reduces risk. He softens ambition. He delays action, not because it is unwise to proceed, but because it may invite attention. This is the invisible judgment. It is not spoken, yet it is felt. And because it is felt, it influences action. Consider the man who has an idea. He sees its potential. He feels compelled to act upon it. Yet before he moves, a thought appears. What will others think? What if it fails? What if I am seen as foolish? These questions do not stop him directly. They weaken him. They reduce his certainty. They introduce hesitation. And in that hesitation, action is delayed. He may tell himself that he will return to the idea later, that he will refine it further, that he will wait until it is stronger. Yet often, he does not return. The moment passes, and with it, the opportunity. This is the cost of invisible judgment. It does not force the man to stop. It persuades him to delay, and delay, repeated often enough, produces inaction. Many of the greatest advancements in history were met with criticism at their beginning. Innovators were dismissed. Leaders were questioned. Those who introduced new ideas were often misunderstood before they were recognized. Yet the man governed by this fear does not consider this. He considers only the immediate response, the discomfort, the possibility of disapproval. And in doing so, he avoids the very actions that lead to advancement. Others will observe this condition without naming it. They will see that the man is capable, yet restrained, that he speaks with understanding, yet acts with hesitation. They may describe him as modest, as reserved, as someone who does not seek attention. Yet beneath this appearance lies limitation, for he is not simply choosing restraint, he is avoiding exposure. The man who overcomes this fear operates differently. He does not remove awareness of others. He removes dependence upon their approval. He acts according to direction, not according to reception. He understands that criticism is not a signal to stop. It is often a sign that something new is being introduced, and what is new is rarely accepted at once. This understanding frees him. He no longer waits for agreement. He proceeds without it. He does not require validation before action. He allows action to produce its own validation over time. This produces strength, for the man is no longer divided. He is not thinking one way and acting another. He is aligned, and alignment produces confidence. It must also be recognized that much of this fear is imagined. The man believes others are watching more closely than they are. He assumes judgment where there is none. He magnifies the importance of opinion beyond its actual influence. This exaggeration strengthens the fear, for what is imagined repeatedly begins to feel real. Thus, the man must question not only his hesitation, but the source of it. He must ask, who am I waiting for? Whose approval do I require? Is this judgment real or assumed? These questions begin to weaken the illusion, for once examined, the imagined audience loses its authority. The man sees that many of the restrictions he has accepted were self-imposed, not through intention, but through assumption. This realization produces freedom. He begins to act, not recklessly, but independently. He moves without constant regard for how he will be perceived. He focuses on direction, on purpose, on result, and in doing so, his actions become stronger, more direct, more effective. Others will begin to notice this change. They will see that he no longer hesitates in the same way, that he does not hold back as before, that he speaks and acts with greater certainty. Some may admire it, others may question it. Yet this response no longer governs him, for he has shifted from seeking approval to producing result. Over time, something further occurs. The very criticism he once feared begins to diminish, not because it has disappeared, but because it has lost its influence. The man is no longer affected by it in the same way. He hears to it. He considers it where useful, and he disregards it where it is not. This is control, not the absence of criticism, but independence from it. Thus, the second ghost must be clearly recognized. It does not shout, it suggests. It does not force retreat, it encourages restraint. It disguises itself as awareness while producing limitation. The man who sees it for what it is gains advantage. He no longer adjusts his actions to fit imagined expectations. He proceeds according to purpose, and in that purpose, he finds direction. Let him then examine where he has held back, where he has delayed, where he has reduced his ambition to remain acceptable. Let him recognize the influence of invisible judgment, and let him act beyond it. For in doing so, he moves into a level of freedom that many never reach. And let him affirm with firm certainty, I act without seeking approval. I am not governed by imagined judgment, and through independent action, I create my own measure of success. There is a form of fear more subtle than the fear of lack or the fear of judgment. It does not concern what a man may fail to gain, nor what others may think of him. It concerns what he may lose by advancing. It is the fear of losing position, of disturbing what has already been established, of stepping beyond the identity he has come to accept. And because it appears as protection, it is seldom recognized as limitation. The man governed by this fear does not feel restrained. He feels responsible. He tells himself that he has something to maintain, a position, a reputation, a level of stability. And because he values what he has built, he begins to guard it. At first, this appears wise, for there is merit in preserving what has been earned. Yet there is danger when preservation becomes resistance to growth, for growth requires movement, and movement requires change. The man begins to hesitate not because he doubts opportunity, but because he fears disruption. He asks himself what may be lost if he proceeds, what may change, what may no longer remain as it is. And in asking these questions, he begins to hold his position rather than extend it. This is how advancement is quietly stopped, not through failure, but through attachment. Consider the individual who has reached a certain level of comfort. He has established himself. He is known in a particular way. His life, though not extraordinary, is stable, predictable, under control. Then an opportunity appears, one that requires expansion, one that demands change. He feels the pull, yet at the same time, he feels resistance. Not fear of the opportunity itself, but fear of what it may alter. What if I lose what I already have? What if this changes how others see me? What if I step into something uncertain and cannot return? These thoughts appear careful, protective, yet they carry a hidden consequence. They bind the man to his present condition. He becomes a guardian of what is, rather than a creator of what could be. This is the essence of the fear of loss of position. It convinces the man that holding is safer than advancing, that preservation is wiser than expansion, and in doing so, it creates a ceiling, one that is rarely seen, yet firmly felt. Others will observe this condition in subtle ways. They will see that the man has reached a point and remains there, that he is capable of more, yet does not pursue it, that he speaks of possibility, yet chooses familiarity. They may describe him as stable, as someone who knows his place, as someone who does not take unnecessary risks. Yet beneath this description lies limitation, for he is no longer growing. He is maintaining. It must be understood that identity plays a central role in this fear. The man has come to see himself in a certain way. He has defined his place, his role, his position. And anything that threatens to alter that definition creates discomfort. He resists not because the opportunity is unworthy, but because it requires him to become someone different. And this is the deeper fear, not loss of possession, but loss of self. Yet what the man does not see is that identity is not fixed. It must evolve. As he grows, his identity must expand to match his advancement. If he holds to what he has been, he cannot become what he must be. This is the conflict between preservation and transformation. The man who overcomes this fear understands that what he has built is not something to cling to, it is something to build upon. He does not protect his position by remaining within it. He strengthens it by extending beyond it. He does not fear change, he directs it. He does not avoid disruption, he uses it. Others will begin to notice this difference. They will see that he does not remain confined by his current condition, that he moves forward even when it requires adjustment, that he is willing to become more rather than remain the same. They may say he is bold, that he is willing to risk, yet what he is doing is necessary. For no advancement occurs without change, and no change occurs without release. It must also be. Recognize that this fear often disguises itself as gratitude. The man tells himself that he should be content with what he has, that he should not desire more, that seeking greater opportunity is unnecessary. While gratitude is a virtue, it must not become a boundary, for gratitude acknowledges what is. It does not forbid what may be. The man may appreciate his present condition while still moving beyond it. These are not in conflict, they are in balance. The danger arises when contentment becomes limitation, when appreciation becomes attachment, when the man no longer allows himself to expand. Thus, he must examine where he is holding, where he is protecting, where he is resisting change. He must ask himself, am I preserving or am I preventing? This question reveals the truth, for preservation maintains what serves, prevention blocks what could improve. The man who answers honestly gains clarity. He sees where he has remained, where he has avoided growth, where he has chosen stability over expansion. And in seeing this, he gains the power to change it. This change does not require reckless action. It requires willingness. Willingness to step beyond the known, to release what no longer serves his advancement, to allow identity to evolve. As he does this, something shifts. He no longer feels bound to his position. He begins to see it as a starting point, not a destination. He becomes free to move, to expand, to grow. Others will sense this. They will see that he is no longer confined, that he does not resist change, that he advances with purpose. This creates respect. For men recognize those who are not held by what they have already achieved. Thus, the third ghost loses its influence, not because it disappears, but because the man no longer obeys it. He sees that what he feared losing was never meant to hold him, it was meant to lead him forward. And in releasing his attachment, he gains something greater: movement, expansion, advancement. Let him then recognize where he has been holding himself in place. Let him release the need to preserve at the cost of growth. Let him allow himself become more than he has been. For in doing so, he moves beyond the limitation of position and into the freedom of progression. And let him affirm with steady conviction, I release attachment to what holds me still. I am not confined by my present position. I expand beyond it and grow into what I am becoming. There are two forms of fear that often appear together, working in quiet agreement, each strengthening the other. One causes the man to withdraw when results are not quickly seen. The other prevents him from acting until the outcome is clearly known. Together, they create a condition where effort is delayed, reduced, or abandoned altogether. These are the fear of effort without immediate reward and the fear of uncertain outcome. The first reveals itself when a man begins with intention, applies effort, and then looks for confirmation. At the beginning, he is willing. He acts. He moves forward. Yet after a short time, he begins to measure. He looks for result. He seeks evidence that what he is doing is working. And when that evidence does not appear, something shifts within him. His effort becomes heavier. His certainty weakens. His movement slows. This is where the fear begins to operate. It does not say, stop. It says, perhaps this is not working. Perhaps this is not the right approach. Perhaps something else would be better. These thoughts seem reasonable, yet they are based on one condition: absence of immediate reward. The man expects to see progress quickly, and when he does not, he begins to doubt the process. This doubt weakens persistence. He reduces his effort. He delays his next step. He begins to withdraw, not because the work is ineffective, but because the result has not yet appeared. This is a misunderstanding of progress, for all meaningful advancement passes through a stage where nothing appears to happen. Effort is applied, action is taken, yet the result remains unseen. It is being formed, but it has not yet revealed itself. The man who does not understand this interprets delay as failure. He believes that if the result were real, it would already be visible, and in this belief, he abandons what was still developing. Thomas Edison, in his pursuit of the electric light, encountered repeated absence of visible success. Each attempt produced no immediate result, yet he did not interpret this as failure. He understood that progress was occurring, even when it could not be seen. This is the difference. The man who persists does not require immediate reward. The man who stops depends upon it. Now, alongside this fear stands another equally influential: the fear of uncertain outcome. This fear appears before action. It prevents movement. It convinces the man that he must first know what will happen before he begins. He tells himself that he needs clarity, that he must understand the path, that he must see the result in advance. And until he does, he waits. This waiting feels intelligent. It feels careful, yet it is limiting, for certainty does not precede action. It follows it. The man who waits for full understanding before beginning will remain in place, for no path reveals itself completely in advance. It becomes clear through movement. The man who advances accepts this. He moves without full knowledge. He acts without complete certainty. And through action, clarity appears. The man who is governed by fear does the opposite. He seeks clarity before movement. And because clarity does not come without movement, he remains where he is. Thus, these two fears combine. One weakens effort after action begins. The other prevents action from beginning at all. Together, they create a cycle. The man delays because he is uncertain. Then, when he acts, he withdraws because results are not immediate. And in this pattern, progress is interrupted repeatedly. Others will observe this in subtle ways. They will see that the man begins, but does not continue, that he plans, but does not act, that he moves but does not sustain movement. They may say he lacks consistency, yet what he lacks is not discipline, it is understanding. He has not recognized the nature of delayed results, nor the necessity of acting without certainty. The man who overcomes these fears operates differently. He does not expect immediate confirmation. He understands that effort must precede reward, that results follow action, not the reverse. He also does not wait for full clarity. He accepts that uncertainty is part of the path. That direction becomes visible only after movement begins. This gives him advantage. He continues when others stop. He begins when others wait. And in doing so, he moves beyond them. It must also be understood that these fears weaken with repetition. Each time the man acts without certainty, he becomes more comfortable with it. Each time he continues without immediate reward, his tolerance for delay increases. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes natural. He no longer requires quick result to continue. He no longer requires full clarity to act. He becomes steady, and steadiness produces progress. Others will begin to notice this. They will see that he does not hesitate in the same way, that he does not withdraw when results are delayed, that he moves with a consistency that appears uncommon. They may believe he possesses unusual confidence. Yet what he possesses is understanding. He knows that progress is not immediate and that certainty is not required. Thus, his actions are not interrupted. His effort is not reduced. His direction is not weakened. He continues. And in continuing, he reaches results that others do not. Let the individual then examine where he has stopped due to lack of immediate reward, where he has delayed due to lack of certainty. Let him recognize these patterns and let him move beyond them. For it is in this movement that progress is secured. And let him affirm with firm resolve, I act without requiring certainty, and I continue without requiring immediate reward. Through steady movement, I create the results that others abandon. There is one form of fear more subtle than all the others, yet more powerful in its effect. It does not depend upon circumstances, nor upon the opinions of others, nor upon the presence or absence of resources. It exists entirely within the man himself. It is the fear of self-doubt, the quiet division between what he desires to do and what he believes he is capable of doing. This fear does not appear as refusal. It appears as hesitation. The man does not say, I cannot, he says, perhaps I should reconsider. He does not feel incapable. He feels uncertain. And in this uncertainty, he delays. This is the nature of inner division. One part of the man sees possibility. Another questions it. One urges action. Another suggests caution. These two voices do not argue loudly. They speak in quiet contrast. And because of this, the man remains suspended between them. He neither fully advances nor fully withdraws. He remains in a state of consideration. This state feels thoughtful, measured, yet it produces no movement. It is the most refined form of inaction, for it allows the man to feel engaged while remaining still. Consider the individual who is presented with opportunity. He recognizes its value. He sees what it could become. Yet almost immediately a second thought arises. Am I ready? Am I capable? Can I sustain this? These questions do not appear as fear. They appear as evaluation. Yet beneath them lies doubt. The man begins to measure himself, not by what he could become, but by what he has already proven. And in doing so, he limits his action to his past. He does not allow himself to move beyond what he has already done. Thus, his future remains confined to his previous experience. This is the effect of self-doubt. It ties possibility to proof, and where proof is absent, it withholds action. The man waits until he feels certain of his ability, yet certainty does not come before action. It comes from it. Thus, he remains waiting for something that cannot arrive until he moves. Others will observe this condition in ways they may not fully understand. They will see a man who is capable, yet hesitant, one who understands, yet does not act, one who speaks of intention, yet delays execution. They may describe him as careful, as someone who does not act prematurely. Yet over time, another pattern emerges. He does not advance. He remains where he is, not because he lacks opportunity, but because he does not trust himself to seize it. This is the deeper nature of the fear. It is not fear of the task. It is fear of oneself, fear that one may not sustain effort, that one may not complete what is begun, that one may fall short. Thus the man avoids beginning, for in not beginning, he avoids the possibility of proving himself incapable. This is the hidden cost. He protects himself from failure, yet in doing so, he prevents success. It must be understood that self-doubt is strengthened through inaction. Each time the man hesitates, he reinforces the belief that hesitation is correct. Each time he delays, he confirms his uncertainty. Over time, this becomes habit, and habit becomes identity. He begins to see himself as someone who must always reconsider, who must always evaluate, who must always be certain before acting. And because he believes this, he behaves accordingly. Thus, the fear becomes permanent, not because it cannot be removed, but because it is continually reinforced. The man who overcomes this fear does not wait for belief to appear before action. He acts in advance of it. He does not attempt to eliminate doubt before moving. He moves despite it. This is the turning point. For belief is not created through thought alone. It is built through experience. Each time the man acts in spite of doubt, he gains proof, not of perfection, but of capability. He sees that he can begin, that he can proceed, that he can continue. This proof weakens doubt, gradually, certainly, over time. The inner division begins to diminish. The two voices grow less opposed. The voice of action becomes stronger, the voice of hesitation weaker, until eventually the man no longer remains divided, he becomes aligned. Others will begin to notice this change. They will see that he no longer hesitates as before, that he does not reconsider endlessly, that he acts with greater certainty. They may believe he has gained confidence, yet what he has gained is proof, proof that he can act, proof that he can continue, proof that he can sustain effort. And from this proof, confidence arises, not imagined, but earned. It must also be recognized that doubt does not disappear entirely. It may still appear, it may still speak, but it no longer governs. The man hears it, yet he does not obey it. He proceeds. This is control, not the absence of doubt, but independence from it. Thus, the sixth ghost loses its power, not because it is removed, but because it is no longer believed without question. The man has seen its pattern. He has recognized its voice. He has acted beyond it. And in doing so, he has established authority over himself. This authority produces freedom. He is no longer confined by internal conflict. He is no longer divided in thought. He moves with direction, with consistency, with strength. Let the individual then examine where he has doubted himself, where he has delayed due to uncertainty, where he has required proof before action. Let him recognize that belief follows movement, not the reverse. And let him act, even when doubt remains. For in that action, he will build the confidence he seeks. And let him affirm, with firm conviction, I act in spite of doubt. I do not wait for belief. I build it through action. And through that action, I become certain of myself. When a man has come to recognize these fears, not as sudden emotions, but as patterns that guide his thinking, he stands at the point where change becomes possible. For fear does not lose its power through force, nor through denial. It loses its power when it is seen clearly, understood, and no longer accepted without question. This is the beginning of dissolution. Not the removal of fear at once, but the weakening of its influence. It must be understood that fear, when hidden, operates automatically. It guides decisions without resistance. It shapes thought without being noticed. And because it is not recognized, it is not challenged. The moment it is recognized, this changes. The man begins to observe. He notices when hesitation appears. He sees when delay is justified. He becomes aware of the patterns that once guided him without awareness. This awareness is powerful, for what is seen can be questioned, and what is questioned begins to lose its authority. At first, this change is subtle. The man does not become fearless at once. He still feels hesitation. He still hears the same reasoning. Yet now, he pauses. He asks himself, is this fear or is this truth? This question creates distance. Before, he reacted. Now, he considers. And in that consideration, he gains control. This is the first step, not action, but awareness. Yet awareness alone is not sufficient. It must be followed by repetition. For fear is not removed in a single moment. It is weakened over time. Each time the man recognizes it and acts beyond it, its influence diminishes. Each time he chooses movement instead of delay, he strengthens a new pattern. This is how change is formed, not through a single decision, but through repeated decisions. Consider the man who once delayed action due to fear of criticism. The first time he acts despite it, the feeling remains strong. The second time, it is slightly less. The third time, it weakens further. Over time, the same fear that once controlled him becomes something he notices but no longer obeys. This is the effect of repetition. It replaces one pattern with another. It transforms behavior. It reshapes identity. The man no longer sees himself as someone who hesitates. He begins to see himself as someone who acts. This shift is gradual, yet it is permanent, for identity follows action. As he continues to act beyond fear, his belief about himself changes. He no longer defines himself by his hesitation. He defines himself by his movement. Others will begin to observe this transformation. They will see that he is more decisive, that he does not delay as before, that he acts with greater certainty. They may believe that he has become fearless, yet this is not so. He has become aware, and through awareness, he has gained control. It must also be understood that fear does not disappear entirely. It may still appear in new forms, in new situations, at new levels of advancement. Yet the man is no longer unprepared. He recognizes the pattern. He sees its nature. And because he sees it, he is not governed by it. This is mastery, not the absence of challenge, but the ability to meet it with understanding. The man no longer attempts to eliminate